Hi guys, and thank you so much for joining me. If you are new to my channel, I'm Kat and I like to talk about true crime, conspiracies and all sorts of related things. So you will probably start seeing on my channel quite a big variety of different kinds of videos. I am doing that because honestly I find it very difficult to organize my content in various channels with various subjects, so I always have a lot to say about everything. So I was just thinking that I'll just put everything onto one channel so it's easy for everyone if you are interested in different things that I wanted to talk about. I will carry on doing the true crime content, but also because of YouTube's demonetization of a lot of my videos, I thought that it's a better idea if I just kind of mix the content. And with all that being said, let's get on with today's video. Also, I need to change the style of the true crime videos, so you might hear censoring or beeping or me trying to whisper rather than say the word. I have no idea what triggers the YouTube algorithm, so yeah, that's that. To begin the video, I want you to imagine you are in a virtual world, in a chat group where anyone can be anyone. You don't know if they are who they say they are, right? But you do make friends, online friends, by engaging with the same group of people all the time through the same game that you play. So at the very least, you have that in common. Now, imagine yourself in our next story and tell me how would you react. Today we are talking about a quadruple homicide confessed on Discord. When one of their friends said he killed 3 people and was about to kill another, the members of a gaming forum jumped into action. But they were faced with a horrible situation. The clock was ticking. They hoped to save at least one person, but they had no idea where the alleged killer was. Maroon Ayoub was still in bed when he got a message from an online friend who went by the username Menhaz. Through sleepy eyes, he read the private message on Discord, a chat app aimed at gamers, and this message shook him to the core. I just slaughtered my entire family and will most likely spend the rest of my life in jail if I manage to survive, the Menhaz account wrote. I hope I made you laugh at one point or another. I hope you remember the good times. I will miss you all. Menhaz Zaman's parents really loved to brag about their son, and who wouldn't when they know they have accomplished children, right? They would proudly tell everyone that Zaman, then 23 years old, always put his family first and was about to graduate with an engineering degree, so he had quite a bright future ahead. Even other parents in their social circles quietly envied them and wished their own sons were as serious and as reliable as Menhaz. 59-year-old Moniruz was his dad and 50-year-old Momotaz was his mom. They were both so excited and looking forward to attend his graduation and see him collect the scroll he worked so hard for. Menhaz lived with his parents, his sister Melissa, 21 years old, and grandmother Firoza Begum, 70 years old, in Markham, Ontario. And they were a really tight-knit family, hard-working, reliable and honest. His parents emigrated from Bangladesh to Canada in search of opportunities and of a better life, really, just like so many others do, including myself. I emigrated as well to the UK for better opportunities and honestly a better life. Little did I know that that decision would be the worst I've ever made. After everything that's happening in my life, which honestly guys I'm not allowed to talk about, I honestly wish I didn't make that move. But this is a story for another day. However, Menhaz's parents would never live to see what's coming. So at one point, Moniruz established himself at a local taxi business, and when Momotaz got involved in property rental, her mom Firoza also emigrated to Canada to help raise their children. This is very common with families which emigrate. The couple would usually go first, settle down, bring the kids or have kids in the country they settled in. Then they would usually bring another family member to look after the kids so they can carry on working. The couple were proud of their roots and made sure their son and daughter were respectful of their Bangladeshi heritage. At the heart of their teachings and education was the importance of family and a strong work ethic. Menhaz and Melissa were told from childhood that education and hard work were the foundations of success. And this is an ethic and teaching which personally I will always respect, and I always strived for the same for my own children. But sometimes things don't work out as you would expect. By 2019, Melissa was at university and she wanted to be a neurosurgeon. Her brother left the house every day to catch the bus, and he would always come back with exciting conversations about his mechanical engineering studies at York University. So you would think that he strongly loved studying and being at university, making his parents proud and becoming a successful man, just what his parents instilled in him. His graduation was going to be on the 28th of July, and there were talks about him doing a master's degree afterwards. But this is where things start to take a turn for the worst. Menhaz had a secret, and he didn't want to get caught. He was living a double life for years, and the truth was there was never going to be a graduation. He never attended York University at all, but his family had no idea whatsoever. He enrolled at a local college, but he very soon failed the classes, and even though he was given the chance to repeat them, he still didn't succeed and dropped out in 2015 after a couple of semesters. He would leave the house every day with his backpack and his laptop and pretended he was going to university in an elaborate lie that carried on for years. At the beginning, Menhaz was heading to campus, but he would just find somewhere quiet to play the multiplayer role-play video games that he was obsessed with. He made online friends from around the world and disappeared into a virtual life where he wasn't failing. After a while, he started hanging out at the local shopping mall, or he would go to the gym. His family didn't suspect a thing. I mean, he was everything they hoped, and with his impeccable behavior at home, he raised absolutely no suspicion. By the summer of 2019, time was really running out for him. His parents were excited about attending his graduation, and Menhaz knew his secret was about to be exposed. For 3 years, he was thinking about a disturbing idea: how to avoid telling his parents, and it was time to put his plan into action. On 27th of July, the day before he was set to graduate, Menhaz's dad was at work. His sister was at her part-time job at a grocery store, and his mom and grandma were having a lie-down. At around 3 p.m., he killed his mom by hitting her with what appeared to be a crowbar and slitting her throat with a kitchen knife. Then, about an hour later, he did the same to his grandmother. Menhaz played video games for hours and even took naps as he waited for his sister to come home. When Melissa walked into the door, he hit her over the head and slit her throat as well. Closer to midnight, an hour later, when his dad got back from work, Menhaz finished off his despicable spree by hitting him over the head and cutting his throat. Menhaz Zaman was now in a house with the deceased bodies of his entire family. Instead of calling 911 or even going on the run, he started talking to his online gaming friends. "I've just slaughtered my entire family," he wrote, and said that he was likely to spend the rest of his life in prison. At first, these online gaming friends, they believed that he was joking, and this was a twisted way to get attention in the virtual world. But then Menhaz sent some pictures of the bodies to a few friends and a selfie of himself holding a bloody knife. That's when the friends grew deeply concerned, and it was time for action. To action! With only a gaming username for Menhaz and Canada as his location, the online community scrambled to contact the authorities. Remember Maroon Ayoub, the user I mentioned at the beginning of this video, how he had just woken up to a horrifying message? The Menhaz online account sent Ayoub a collection of photos which depicted his family members lying dead on the ground, covered in blood, with their throats cut. Online friends of both Ayoub and the Menhaz account received similar messages. It was a shocking moment for a group of friends built around one of the most popular things imaginable: a private server for Perfect World, a Chinese multiplayer game launched in 2005. The online friends congregated in the game server called Perfect World Void, or PWV, and its discussion forums for years. For a moment in time, this group of gamers were the only people in the world who knew about the quadruple homicide in progress. This is an impossible situation to be in, right? First of all, is he real? Is he true? Is he lying? Is he just making this up? What can a group of friends who have never met and who don't even know each other's real names do when faced with a possible murder spree? According to Maroon Ayoub, they decided to act. They started working to track the person behind the Menhaz account's real-world address and notifying police. Several hours later, in the afternoon on July 28, police attended a home in Markham, Ontario, for a wellness check. Once there, they found a disturbing scene. In the house, there were the bodies of 21-year-old Melissa Zaman, 59-year-old Moniruz Zaman, 50-year-old Momotaz Begum, and 70-year-old Firoza Begum. Police arrested a 23-year-old man named Menhaz Zaman at the scene and charged him with 4 counts of first-degree murder. Police said they received information that really pushed them to conduct the check-in, but they wouldn't clarify exactly what that information was. A police spokesperson told Vice that since Menhaz Zaman is already in custody, there is no public safety risk. The police were being careful with what they got out to the public so it doesn't hurt their investigation and the case against him. The courts didn't test the charges against Zaman. They also didn't establish he operated the Menhaz accounts on Discord and the Perfect World Void server and forums. So Vice, who conducted interviews with the gamers, referred to Menhaz Zaman as Zaman and the account which contacted the gamers as Menhaz. While nobody knows exactly what happened inside the Markham home unless you are a fly on the wall, which I wish I would have been, the gamers who say they were unintentionally pulled in the middle of their crime have come forward to share their version of events. The following information is built from interviews with several gamers involved who shared screenshots from the night in question with Vice. The members of the Perfect World Void PWV community engaged with the Menhaz account for a long time, some for even over half a decade. Several players who spoke to Vice considered him a good friend and they played and chatted online almost every day. They knew a bit about him. He was a Canadian who said was attending college. He loved gaming and often would be playing when they logged in and still going at it when they even logged off. The person they only knew as Menhaz played as an elf priest in the game, a class known to be good at both supporting and offensive capabilities. Players who spent time with him said he enjoyed taking on other players in one-on-one battles. So when he started saying he would kill his family, most of the players believed it was just another weird, dark joke. That's honestly a joke I wouldn't like hearing. No, oh no. Friends of the Menhaz account described him as a troll. For the most part, the trolling was kind of light-hearted, but that changed over the last year. He also told them that he was a former Muslim and he began to mock his former religion and use racial slurs. He began talking about killing himself and his family as early as March, according to chat logs that Vice has seen, a disturbing development that PWV players considered really a bad joke. It's the internet after all. People threaten to kill other people and even worse every single day online, and this kind of provocation is expressed internet-born irony and may usually be regarded as humor until it explodes into terrifying reality. Don't I know? Oh, I do alright, honestly. Sadly, like I said previously, I can't talk about it. One of his online friends, who didn't want to be named, said that in the last months the Menhaz account and his humors became extremely dark over time. He would talk about suicide a lot, but to his friends it seemed like a dark joke. When he started saying he would kill his family, most people believed it was another weird dark joke, even when he attached a date to when he would do the gruesome act. The friend believed he just wanted to make the joke even darker and then troll everyone on that date. Honestly guys, if I would be reading online about someone talking about killing their own family, I wouldn't take it as a joke. I mean, I'm not blaming these players because we are, we are from different generations and we sort of judge things differently, but if I would be reading that, I would take it very seriously. Because from my point of view, I think that when you are in an online world and you start chatting to people and you start developing these relationships online with people you don't really know face to face, it's easier for a lot of us to open up to these people that we don't know. So that's a thing to consider, and that's why for me this kind of joke would have been definitely a red flag. The Menhaz account's actions became so extreme that on July 11th he was banned from the server for what one moderator described as racist statements he repeatedly made. Another longtime online friend said that on July 25th, the Thursday before the murders, the Menhaz account said in a group chat his life was about to end because someone tipped off the authorities regarding some sort of plan that he was hatching. On that Thursday, he got to the group chat and just said he was there to have some fun and posted random pictures from the game. Then all of a sudden he said that his life was going to end because someone snitched on him, so he had to do it as soon as possible. Despite earlier statements, nobody actually realized what it meant or the grisly drama they were about to be drawn into. After that, the Menhaz account suddenly went quiet. One member who didn't want to be named and who, let's say we can call Tom, noticed this, the silence, and on Saturday wrote to him in a small group chat to check up on him. It was around 10 p.m. on Saturday, the evening before the bodies of the Zaman family were discovered by police in Markham, and the long night was just beginning. The Menhaz account told Tom in a Discord message that he killed his family and sent graphic pictures of two women on the ground covered in blood. Deep down, Tom knew it was real, but he didn't really want to believe it. He thought it was still a joke. I mean, surely you wouldn't expect one of your online friend and fellow gamer to be capable of something like this and confess to it online, right? Being disturbed by it, Tom went to a Discord chat for Perfect World Void players and asked people to check if the photos could be found deep somewhere on the internet. The group searched with no results. They couldn't find any photos of the family elsewhere until the Menhaz account violently snuffed out any remaining doubt. He said he was going to kill his sister and then sent a picture of a dead woman. To verify that it was his family that he just killed, the account shared a photo of the family together while they were still alive, cutting what appeared to be a birthday cake. I think that deep down, Zaman wanted to make sure that his online friends believe him, and that's why he sent them proof. Almost like, I don't know, being proud of himself, of what he managed to achieve. He then told Tom and the others that he was waiting for his dad to come home to kill him. He said he would be home in about an hour. Now, this was the moment of their decision. Not only did they believe the murders were real, but they were still ongoing, and there was a ticking clock until the next death. Needing to do something, Tom made a chat room on Discord and added the Menhaz account's friends and Perfect World Void users who were known to be from Canada. He just added whoever was active and felt that they could help. They were trying to reach someone who lived in Canada or who can contact the police. Soon after, the Menhaz account sent a picture of an older man with his Tom said they were all trying to save his dad at this point, but they couldn't reach the police in time. With 4 people now presumably dead, the Menhaz account began to message numerous people with similar messages, including to Maroon Ayoub, starting with, "I just slaughtered my entire family." In later messages to Maroon, the Menhaz account said that he started mass sharing the images because deep down parts of him wanted this to spread faster, so he is caught faster and the purgatory he is in ends. Once Maroon got online after receiving the disturbing messages, he was added to Tom's group. He was immediately contacted by one player who started the conversation with Menhaz committed murder. He was then added to a group that had 4 other players who were trying to contact the police, but they didn't have much information about Menhaz's location. The group then grew to approximately 10 people. With the Menhaz account claiming that their entire family was dead, the gamers were worried that the killing spree might not be over. In one set of screenshots shared with Vice, Menhaz was asked what will he do now, and one of the things that he answered with was that he will go and visit his girlfriend. That was another alarming statement. The group dedicated themselves to finding an IP address connected to the Menhaz account. An IP address is a unique identifier for internet-connected devices that can give an indication of their geographic location. If they could find it and connect it to a home address, they might have a shot at alerting the police to the location of their online friend. Thinking that yet another life may hang in the balance, they continued to talk with the Menhaz account and keep him busy. The Menhaz account kept on talking, but he wouldn't give out his address. That's what I think that he wanted. He was looking for some appreciation of some sort, probably thinking he's finally being taken seriously. They finally believe him. They believe he murdered his family. It was a win for him. You usually see this in, I don't know, sociopaths and narcissists. I wonder how much of that game playing influenced his plan and decision making. I think at the end of the killing spree he felt not only relief, he wasn't discovered by his family, but mostly I think he felt invincible, much like the character in his game. Vice has seen a lot of screenshots of their conversations, and in them the Menhaz account talks about having planned the murders for 3 years, and at one point discusses moving the bodies to different locations in the house so they will photograph better. Something is missing from here. Yeah. Maybe one last group picture the Menhaz account wrote. Finding someone's address online in a short amount of time is an incredibly difficult task. IP addresses can be red herrings, especially if someone is using software such as VPN, which routes internet traffic through a server in a location other than the user's location, or simply logging on using a coffee shop's Wi-Fi. The online team made very little progress, and at times with false results. At one point, a perfect world void administrator pulled an IP address connected to the Menhaz account on the forums. They finally had him, or so they believed. But it was an address from New Brunswick. One of the group members knew that he didn't live in that province, but they didn't give up. Tom really lost track of time. They pulled some IP addresses, but they were wrong. However, bingo, bingo. The search eventually paid off. A member of the group decided that they might get some information from the Skype account linked to their online friend. It would be a good try, right? From this account, they were able to find an IP address, and that indicated he was in the Greater Toronto area. For one member of this team, a user who went by the name Bianca, this really upped the stakes. Not only was the person behind the Menhaz account based in Canada, but he was really close to her. Around 3 a.m. the same night, I couldn't sleep, Bianca said. This happened only 12 kilometers, 7 miles from me, so I became anxious. Earlier that day, about 1 a.m., he was saying he was going to go visit his ex-girlfriend, and we all thought he was going to kill her or something. So that motivated me to get the right address. An IP address can help identify a user's geographic location, but it's not exact. Imagine trying to call the police in a different country and explaining that you're a person from the internet who thinks someone whose real name you have no idea just committed a quadruple homicide somewhere in their town. I'm sure 100% that the police wouldn't take it seriously. They wouldn't believe it. The group knew they needed more information, and so they kept going and going, and finally they hit the jackpot. After the murders, the Menhaz account began asking for his friends' email addresses so he could send them money via PayPal. He said he wanted to give them money because they are good friends, and where he's going, he really won't need this money. He also mentioned he already gave loads of money to other people. He said he did it because he didn't want his parents to be ashamed of having a son like him. Bianca looked for previous payments coming from Menhaz's PayPal account, and she found a home address that matched with the information from their IP address search. Finally, they located a home address connected to the Menhaz account. Tom said he believes the whole process took about 4 to 5 hours. Bianca then contacted the police early Sunday morning and gave them the information. I managed to sleep at 6 a.m. after calling cops, sometimes between 3 and 5, she said. I came back online around 11 a.m. and later on noticed that articles were starting to show up about him getting arrested and was relieved. Whew, I would be relieved as well, honestly. At 3 p.m. on Sunday afternoon, police attended the Zaman house where they found 4 bodies and arrested Menhaz Zaman. When police finally arrived, the Menhaz account ended his conversation with Tom, simply saying, "Police are here, goodbye." On Monday, police laid 4 charges of first-degree murder against Menhaz Zaman. In the aftermath, the Perfect World Void community is honestly trying to come to terms with what happened and at what point Menhaz's trolling should have been seen as outright warning signs of the alleged violence to come. In messages sent to the group on the night of the alleged murders, the Menhaz account explained that his family believed he was in university. In reality, he was living a lie. The Menhaz account explained he started skipping university the first year that he entered. He felt sorry for doing that, but after having failed half of the subjects, he had to repeat the courses. And in the second semester, he started getting depressed, he became an atheist, and created this plan. For 3 years, he's been telling his parents he was going to university, when in fact he was hanging out at the mall 4 days a week. The mall was on the same route to the university. He even told his parents that his classes weren't that long, so he would just chill at the mall from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m., whilst also going to the community gym. He told his family that he was graduating on July 28 and he had to do something before his deception was discovered. He implied that he killed his family so that they wouldn't find out how worthless he was. He repeatedly referred to himself as a subhuman and said he killed his family rather than himself because he was an atheist and scared of death. "I did this because I don't want my parents to feel the shame of having a son like me," the account continued. "I chose to kill them instead of me out of cowardliness, due to me being an atheist and believing this is the only life we get. I know it might sound confusing, but what's done is done, and what had been planned has been concluded." Some people in the group who were to notify police are still experiencing the trauma. One person said that they are unable to eat, and others said they have trouble sleeping. Some who just spoke to the Menhaz account during the ordeal said that they wish they did more. "I should have maybe paid more attention to what he said on Thursday," one longtime friend from the forum said. "I might have had a chance to stop this." Honestly, it's no point in blaming themselves and thinking that they could possibly have done more, because you have no idea what a person is capable of, especially when you don't know them, but even when you do know them. And especially nowadays with so many things influencing whatever you do. Menhaz Zaman was arrested and initially charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder. The massacre shocked the community and everyone was in disbelief that the killings were carried out by him. The golden boy, the same golden boy who helped his mom carry the shopping and had so much to look forward to. He's never been in trouble in his entire life. Investigators discovered that he texted friends after the killings saying he'd been planning this for 3 years and that while he was a pathetic coward and subhuman after killing his whole family, the shaking has stopped. In September 2020, Menhaz Zaman pleaded guilty to 3 counts of first-degree murder relating to his grandmother, dad and sister, and 1 of second-degree murder relating to his mom. The court was told that he the throats of his entire family simply to avoid telling them the truth. It's possible that if the case had gone to trial, his mother's charge would have been first degree, but the court accepted the plea. 2 months later, he faced sentencing in a virtual, restricted courtroom and he spoke briefly. I would like to just apologize to anyone I have impacted negatively with my actions, he said, especially to the people who knew my family, friends and loved ones, who I know could have never seen something like this from me happening. The judge was openly condemning about his actions and said that what he did was deeply disturbing and deserving of severe punishment. Words such as brutal, cruel, cold and callous do not begin to convey the enormity of his violence, she said. It is difficult to imagine a more horrific way to take a human life than by slitting the victim's throat. Mr. Zaman did so not just once but 4 separate times over a span of hours. No right-thinking member of society would see any remote correlation between the imminent disclosure of the secret of Mr. Zaman's non-attendance at school and the vicious taking of the lives of the 4 people closest to him. The judge added that it was a betrayal of trust that took place in the family home where everyone should feel safe. She was in disbelief that while his mom and grandmother lay dead upstairs, Zaman played video games and napped while he waited to execute his dad and sister the same way. Menhaz Zaman, who pleaded guilty to murdering 4 of his family members inside their home, has been sentenced to life in prison with no chance of parole for 40 years. The sentence is in line with a recommendation put forward by attorneys for the Crown and Zaman after he pleaded guilty in September. During the sentencing hearing, the lawyers submitted a joint recommendation that Menhaz Zaman serve life in prison with a 25-year period of parole ineligibility for the first-degree murders of Begum, Monivrus and Malisa. He said Menhaz should have a further 15 years of parole ineligibility for the second-degree murder of Momtaz, noting there were issues in determining if her murder was planned and deliberate. I mean, I don't know what issues they saw, but I'm not seeing any issues with this being planned because he planned it for the last 3 years. And I'm sure that he didn't plan to leave someone outside, so in my eyes it was premeditated. And the proof would be those messages on Discord. I mean, what more do you need? I don't know, I don't work in the law system, justice system, court system, but I think that they fail a lot of people. Menhaz won't be eligible for parole until he's 64 years old. He also has to submit his DNA to a registry and will have a 10-year weapons ban should he be released on parole. I don't know if you are dying to know what kind of game Zaman was playing, but when I did my research for this case, I was honestly, personally dying to know. And so now, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about the game. In the beginning of time, the first god of the universe, Pangu, lived an immortal life. But with no subjects to lord over, Pangu grew tired of his solitary existence and decided to decompose his body into 5 elements: fire, metal, wood, earth and water. With his divine power, Pangu forged these elements into air, land, mountains, rivers, seas and plant life and laid the foundation for a new world. It was then that Pangu made his first attempt to fill this new world with life. From his shadow, he formed the first sentient beings. These unnamed creatures were uncivilized, and before long they began turning on one another and corrupting the world around them. Pangu saw that what he had created had become an imperfect world and moved quickly to rectify his mistake. He built a floating city known as Heaven's Stair and placed within the city the few creatures that had yet to be corrupted. Then, with the power of water and wind, Pangu created a massive flood which swept through the land and destroyed all life in its path. The world now cleansed, Pangu set about creating a new world, one filled with beings who were capable of spiritual cultivation. He created 3 races that possessed the traits he most treasured in himself. The human race was born of Pangu's spirit and demonstrated morality, honor, and an unlimited imagination. The race of the untamed, born of Pangu's body, embodied freedom and peace and possessed a unique connection with the natural order of the world. And the third race, the winged elves, were born of Pangu's own blood and exemplified beauty, grace, and purity. Between the 3 races, the perfect world was created, much like our own world. The chief quality that Pangu gave all 3 races was free will. He vowed never again to eradicate an entire species, so all conflicts between the races were to be resolved amongst themselves. One such conflict arose between the humans and winged elves when the 2 races discovered the city of Heaven's Stair. A war erupted as they fought for control of the great city, bringing out the worst in both races. The untamed remained neutral, as they were content with living in harmony with the natural world. As the war intensified and neither side relented, a new threat emerged. The race that was thought to have been eradicated in the Great Flood returned in full force. Those creatures were not quite living but not quite dead, and thus came to be known as wraiths. The wraiths appear to possess a singular objective: to destroy the other races and corrupt the beautiful world around them. Rumors swirl that the wraiths were capable of possessing other living things. Not much is known about the true nature of this evil, but one thing is clear: the 3 races, human, untamed, and winged elf, must set aside their differences and unite to preserve their way of life, halt the spread of corruption, and above all, protect the perfect world. I mean, honestly, from what I'm reading here, it sounds amazing. It sounds great. I honestly love this kind of games. The story around them. More or less, players fight aggressively for spots on the map with campaigns, fighters which they can customize, giving them different weapons and more stuff like this. I mean, you get it. If you played any strategy games, it's something very similar. I mean, I used to play a long time ago, and very often Heroes, the Heroes game, I even forgot the full name for it, but I got to Heroes 5. Yeah, that's the last version I played, Heroes 5, and I absolutely love that game, and it's very similar to this game, but you know, it's a different storyline. Fighting, though, involves violence. With violence, some people can be affected negatively. Pair that with being obsessed with a game which you don't want to leave, and you potentially have the most lethal combination. So let's have a look at some studies which have been conducted to see how do video games affect emotions and mental health. Video games seem to be blamed for all sorts of negative effects on mental health, with some studies indicating that gaming results in people becoming anxious, depressed, angry, or even violent. There is some truth to each of these claims. However, there is more to the story. Excessive video gaming is found to be associated in general with positive emotions and social relationships while playing. However, problematic and excessive video gaming is also associated with negative coping strategies, negative emotions and attitudes, low self-esteem, loneliness, and poor academic performance. So you can see how this ticks the boxes for Menhaz in this context. Video games are not evil by nature. They do not necessarily cause anxiety or depression. However, video game addiction can certainly make these issues worse. A lot of gamers started playing video games to escape something in real life. Maybe they were bullied in school, and when they came home, they were bullied on social media. In a situation like this, their only escape for the gamer is a video game. That is the only place where they can immerse themselves and escape the emotional pain of living in the real life. An fMRI study, which is basically functional magnetic resonance imaging, looked at the activity of different parts of the brain in gamers. The amygdala is the part of your brain that governs fear and negative emotions. The study showed that when your amygdala is active, for example, when you are experiencing pain or fear and you start playing a video game, then the amygdala calms down. Video games literally allow us to escape negative emotions and suppress them. Negative emotions are one of the strongest teachers for the human brain. If a child, say for example, if a child touches a hot stove once, they learn to never touch it again. Therefore, since video games suppress our negative emotions, they also make it harder to learn from our mistakes. And so people get stuck playing video games even though they realize that their gaming habit is hurting other progress in life. Since they do not understand why they cannot quit, they start to believe that they are lazy and continue to play video games. If someone suppresses their emotions for long periods of time, they develop a condition called alexithymia. Alexithymia is the inability to determine one's inner emotional state. A majority of gamers are alexithymic because of the way video games suppress our emotions and affect our mental health. Alexithymia is an adaptive and protective mechanism. At a young age, people often do not have an emotional guide who can explain their emotions to them. They end up suppressing them because it's easier to do that rather than to keep feeling the emotional pain. Over time, they start to lose their ability to determine what emotions they are feeling. This doesn't mean that emotions no longer control their behavior. They just can't recognize when that happens. In our society, even nowadays, men who show emotions such as fear, sadness, and shame are considered weaker or less masculine than those that don't show this kind of emotions. Therefore, the only acceptable emotion that they can express is anger. This severely limits their emotional capacity and makes men more susceptible to developing alexithymia. Over time, due to this continuous suppressive action, negative emotions keep building up. Eventually, the pressure that they exert on our mind becomes too strong to be contained. This is when gamers have emotional outbursts. They end up using the only strategy that they know of, using gaming to suppress these emotions. As a result, they play video games all day long. Aspects of their life, such as performance in school, physical health, and hygiene, get neglected, which results in more negative emotions that they have to suppress. Eventually, they get stuck in a negative feedback loop. Video games are correlated with increased depression and anxiety. People who are unhappy or depressed are drawn to video games because they help to suppress negative emotions. They develop a gaming habit that causes them to get stuck in life. Naturally, they end up being unhappy. There is a difference between clinical depression and feeling unhappy. Someone can be content in life but still have underlying feelings of sadness. That is clinical depression. However, if you are stuck in life and are not moving towards your goals, then you will most likely be unhappy. Sometimes you can have both and it becomes hard to distinguish one from the other. Our mind has the ability to predict potential problems in the future. If this ability gets out of control, then that is what we call anxiety. Being addicted to video games causes us anxiety because when we are playing games, we are not doing the things that we know we should do. However, we are not anxious about neglecting them in the present or not having done them in the past. We are actually anxious about the consequences of not addressing those things. Those consequences lie in the future. Every anxious thought has its root in the future. Video games do not necessarily cause anxiety, but when they take over your life and you start to neglect other important things, then that creates anxious thoughts. If a person is addicted to video games and is going nowhere in life, then they will probably have low self-worth and confidence. Moreover, gamers aren't judged for external things when they are online. Other people see them for who they are as a person and do not judge them based on what clothes they wear, how they look, how much money they make or whatever car they own. But when they move out into the real world, they are judged for these things, and since they are not used to being judged, they feel really uncomfortable. They start to stay inside and avoid going outside. That makes the situation worse because then they miss out on opportunities to grow and explore. This makes their low self-esteem even worse, and their confidence continues to decrease over time. Video games are not necessarily the source of mental health problems. It is possible to be a healthy gamer and enjoy video games as a recreational activity. However, when people do not know how to deal with their emotions, they tend to use video games to suppress them and end up getting stuck in life. And I think that the same kind of thing goes with social media in general, where when you are all the time stuck to your phone, stuck to your screen, stuck to your computer, let me use a filter, let me put this makeup, let me pose like this, let me do that because I want to show a picture perfect life. These things, they have a negative impact on us as well in our day-to-day life. So what do we think about Menhaz Zaman? I personally believe that the red flags were there. They were there. If only his family would have spotted them, it could have saved their lives. But of course, I'm not saying this to do any kind of victim blaming. I'm not blaming the victims here, because obviously they believed in their son. They believed in the education that they gave their son. So there was no way that they could have even suspect that he could do something like this. I mean, he was the golden boy after all. So obviously no parent would suspect that this kind of thing would be happening to them. And out of all the people, your own son, your own child, who you know, you instilled all those family values and all that proper education, and you believe that he's working to achieving of being a successful man. So honestly, nobody could have seen that coming. I think that Menhaz was addicted to the video game that he was playing, so much so that it's possible he saw his character or traits of his character as himself in the real life. And the more he played, the more he experienced all these negative emotions we just talked about. His low self-esteem, low confidence, doing not so well at university, and all of these led to him believing that the only way he could avoid having his double life exposed was through murder. Was he trying to spare his family of shame in a twisted way? I do tend to think in a way that he showed sociopathic and narcissistic traits online, especially after the murders, and he wanted to prove himself that he actually did it to those people online. He wanted to prove this to a group of people that he only knew online. Was he trying to kind of prove to himself as well that yes, he's capable of something like this, but he didn't look at this thing as being something negative? He looked at this as sort of a freeing way for him to get out of trouble or not to get into trouble. It's very disturbing, honestly. It's very disturbing. Please guys, do let me know what do you think about this video in the comment section down below. And with this, I will end today's video. Before you go, I would really like to please give this video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, whichever way you like. Either way, it helps me and my channel out. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Stay safe and take care. Bye.